Egypt is an amazing country with a rich and sometimes mysterious history. Beneath layers of sand lie eerie secrets that archaeologists try to uncover year after year. However, dark rituals, sacrifices, and mysterious symbols have left their mark not only in the era of ancient Egypt. Some discoveries are so frightening that even scientists begin to wonder about the supernatural. Watch this video until the end. You'll have something to discuss with your friends. Hey, you're watching the Kir Kurtop channel. A creepy discovery under the floor. An ordinary day for Amelia turned into a real investigation. She noticed that one of the floorboards in her house was loose and decided to lift it to find out the reason. However, instead of a simple breakage, she found strange items under the board, an old coin from 1904 and a small golden book. When she opened the book, she discovered that the pages were unusually thick. Inside, there were old photographs, eerie images of the house, dark shadows in empty rooms, and mysterious portraits. Perhaps the house holds dark secrets from the past, or maybe the photographs have simply aged. However, the discovery seriously frightened Amelia herself. She admitted that since then, she has felt anxious and wants to find out what other secrets her house is hiding. The oldest Masonic artifact. This brass square is one of the earliest Masonic artifacts in the world. It was found in 1830 under the foundation of Bales Bridge in the Irish city of Limerick. It dates back to 1507, which makes it an important piece of evidence of early Freemasonry. On one side, the words, "I will strive to live with love and care," are engraved, and on the other, "according to the level and by the square." These phrases echo the key principles of Freemasonry: honesty, justice, and brotherhood. The square and the level are traditional Masonic symbols. They represent righteous actions and equality. How this item ended up under the bridge remains a mystery. Perhaps it was placed there as a symbolic stone for good luck during the construction. In any case, this is a rare artifact that gives us an idea of the origins of Masonic traditions as early as the beginning of the 16th century. Pyramid of the oldest civilization. The Norte Chico culture, also known as Caral Supi, is considered one of the oldest and most advanced civilizations in the Andes. It existed about 5,000 years ago and achieved significant success in architecture, agriculture, and social organization. Recently, archaeologists discovered a pyramid structure about a kilometer from the sacred city of Caral Supe in the Supe Valley, Peru. The structure is a quadrangular building with a wide staircase leading to the top. Its walls are decorated with massive vertical stones called huancas, which may have had not only a structural but also a ritual significance. In addition to the pyramid, researchers found 12 public and ceremonial buildings located around the central square, which covers almost 39 hectares. This indicates the existence of a small urban center with administrative and religious functions. 3 platforms have been identified in the pyramid, which indicates the complex architectural tradition of the Caral civilization. At the Chupa Chupatzigaro site, archaeologists also discovered a unique geoglyph made in the Sechin style. It depicts a human profile and is probably connected to rituals reflecting access to the region's marine and agricultural resources. The world's oldest runestone. Archaeologists in Norway have made a sensational discovery. It may be the oldest known runestone. Fragments of sandstone with runes carved into them were found in individual graves at the ancient Svingerut Cemetery. Researchers found that these pieces fit together like a puzzle, forming a single stone with a unique engraving. Runes are ancient letters that were used for writing in Germanic languages before the transition to the Latin alphabet. The origin of runic writing remains a subject of debate, but early alphabets were already in use before 700 AD. Radiocarbon dating of the discovered stone showed that it dates from 50 BC to 275 AD, making it the oldest known runic monument. The unique feature of the find is that the inscriptions on the stone are an unusual mix of runes and unknown symbols. The carvings may have been made by various people at different times, with the stone reused multiple times. Researchers believe that it originally served as a memorial marker for one grave, but was later broken and redistributed among other burials. Zombie spiders. While exploring caves in Northern Ireland, scientists discovered a new type of fungus capable of taking over spiders and controlling their behavior. This fungus operates on the same principle as zombie fungi known in tropical forests, causing infected insects to spread its spores. The research was conducted by a team led by Dr. Harry Evans, with the participation of specialists from the Natural History Museum of Denmark and the Royal Botanic Gardens, Kew. The new species was named Gibellula attenboroughi in honor of Sir David Attenborough. The analysis showed that it parasitizes orb weaver spiders, forcing them to change their usual behavior. The researchers noticed that infected spiders left the cave walls and moved to the ceiling, which is not typical for these species. It is assumed that the fungus controls the victim's nervous system, directing it to places favorable for spore dispersal. A seated burial and a children's necropolis. In the French city of Dijon, archaeologists discovered a unique Gallic burial more than 2,000 years old. The uniqueness of the find is that all the deceased are sitting facing west. This is a rare ritual, known from only a few sites in France and Switzerland. The excavations were carried out in the garden of an old monastery, where archaeologists came across 13 burials. The deceased sit with hands on thighs and legs, asymmetrically arranged. The burials are dated to the period between 450 and 25 BC. Researchers suggest that these graves may have contained priests, chiefs, or members of the same family. Next to these burials, a children's necropolis from the 1st century AD was found, where 22 infants were buried, many of whom did not live even a year. Some children were buried in wooden coffins, as evidenced by the nails that were found. Coins and ceramics were also discovered in the graves, probably as burial offerings. However, part of the cemetery was destroyed due to agricultural work. The reason for the seated burial remains a mystery. One theory is connected to the belief in the afterlife. Perhaps the deceased were meant to enter the next world in a special posture. Other researchers believe that this is part of a spiritual practice. The posture could have symbolized meditation or eternal rest. This is supported by Celtic figurines found in different parts of Europe. The burial of a female shaman. On the banks of the Tigris River in Turkey, archaeologists discovered a 12,000-year-old burial that may belong to a female shaman. Her remains were found in the Neolithic settlement of Shemkoshok. Next to her were the skeletons of wild animals, partridge wings, marten paws, bones of goats or sheep, and an aurochs skull. Researchers suggest the woman may have mediated between humans and spirits. Shamans played an important role in ancient societies, conducting rituals related to nature and supernatural forces. The burial was carefully sealed with a limestone slab, which may indicate a fear of the possible return of the deceased woman. There is a theory that she was considered special or even dangerous to society. Archaeologists will conduct DNA and isotope analysis of the bones to find out who she was, what she ate, and what role she played in her tribe. Tunnels that were considered a myth. For the residents of Cusco, this discovery became real proof of ancient legends about underground passages and hidden treasures. Archaeologists Jorge Calero Flores and Mildred Fernandez Palomino reported the discovery of a network of tunnels beneath the city, connecting the Temple of the Sun and the Sacsayhuaman fortress. According to preliminary data, the tunnels date back to the late 15th and early 16th centuries. The engineering solutions used in their construction are astonishing. The stone walls, similar to the famous Inca structures, are resistant to earthquakes, and the complex drainage system prevented flooding. The length of the labyrinth is about 1,750 meters, and the depth reached 2.5 meters. The tunnels have 3 branches. One leads to Calispucio, the second passes under the San Cristobal Church, and the third connects to Sacsayhuaman. The purpose of these passages remains a mystery. Some researchers suggest that the tunnels were used by priests or military commanders for covert travel. Others believe that they had ritual significance. Small niches have been found in the walls, probably intended for sacrifices. Although no gold or artifacts have been found yet, the tunnels themselves are a valuable historical discovery. Modern technologies, such as ground-penetrating radar, help study them without causing damage. Local residents actively support the research, considering the discovery an important part of their heritage. People of an unknown civilization. In the tropical forests of Brazil in the state of Rondônia, archaeologists captured rare footage of people from the isolated Masaco tribe. This tribe, discovered in the 1990s, strictly avoids contact with the outside world and carefully guards its land by setting deadly traps made of wooden spikes. These spikes are so strong that they can puncture tractor tires. The Masaco are one of 28 tribes in the Amazon that are completely cut off from civilization. To study them without intrusion, scientists installed cameras in the jungle. Researcher Al Geiser has been observing the tribe since 1992. Thanks to his work, deforestation on their territory was stopped. Early attempts to contact isolated peoples often ended tragically due to outbreaks of disease. That's why the Masaco rejected any offerings, tools, utensils, weapons. They left only sharp spikes at meeting places, warning outsiders that intrusion was unwelcome. After contact ceased and their lands were protected, the tribe's population increased. In the 1990s, about 90 people lived here. Now there are around 200 to 250. Scientists mapped their trails and camps and recorded their nomadic farming techniques using satellites. The tribe burns the savanna and then moves there during the rainy season. Masaco are different from other tribes because of their long bows, which can be up to 3 meters. Anthropologists still don't understand how they shoot them. Their language is unique and not understood even by other indigenous peoples. Researchers note that the number of Masaco is growing, which means that sooner or later they will come into contact with civilization. But history shows that such contacts rarely end well. Brelek Cemetery, Yakutia, Brelek River. You won't find shells or beautiful stones here, but you can stumble upon ancient tusks and skulls sticking right out of the ground. This is one of the largest mammoth cemeteries on the planet. Thousands of bones, whose age is measured in millennia, hold mysteries of the past. Why did so many animals die in one place? The cemetery became known in 1947, but the first serious research only began in the 1970s. At that time, scientists suggested that mammoths came to the river in search of food, but the swampy banks couldn't support their weight, and the animals drowned. Lighter animals could go further without any problems. Over 39 years, paleontologists have extracted more than 8,500 bones from the ground, 99.5% of which belong to mammoths, with at least 150 individuals found. But at the same time, smugglers and even ancient people left their mark. Nearby, a site was discovered where our ancestors broke mammoth bones to create tools and weapons. The latest research has shown that hunters did not come here by chance. They deliberately drove mammoths into this area. For 1,000 years, people regularly returned to this place to obtain meat and tusks. This cemetery is not just a natural phenomenon, but evidence of an ancient hunting strategy. Imagine, in 1,000 years, humanity has gone from nomadic hunting to space exploration, while in the past people could return to the same place for centuries just to survive. Such stability is something we will probably never achieve again. Lacquered coffin. In 2018 in China's Jiangsu province, archaeologists discovered a unique 700-year-old lacquered coffin from the Yuan dynasty. Its bright red surface was perfectly preserved thanks to the multi-layer lacquer coating, which protected the wood from moisture and decay. Lacquered coffins were a symbol of high status in China, and their creation required complex techniques. The lacquer was applied in several layers and then polished to a shine. This method of preservation allowed the coffin to survive for centuries, with almost no damage. The discovery is also important because the Yuan dynasty left relatively few burials, and this coffin can tell us a lot about the burial traditions of that time. A creepy artifact in the garden. An ordinary walk with a metal detector turned into a creepy discovery. A California resident accidentally discovered a mysterious chest buried in a friend's garden. At first, he expected to find only small items like coins or bottle caps, but instead he came across a heavy metal box covered in strange symbols. When opening the chest, the men expected to find something valuable, but inside there was only dirt and a few plastic flowers. The main concern was caused by the SS emblem, a symbol of Nazi Germany. According to some theories, the chest could have been used by World War II soldiers to transport trophies. Despite the many theories, the origin of the chest remains a mystery. Who buried it and why? Why is there only trash inside? Maybe historians can uncover the mystery behind this discovery. Excavations in the powder keg. Archaeologists have discovered Paleolithic sites and artifacts about 1.5 million years old in the desert in western Iraq. Among the finds are hand axes and stone tools that shed light on the early history of the region and ancient human activity. The research was conducted in the Al-Shabaka area, where geoarchaeologist Ella Ekbers and her team studied ancient soil layers and traces of human activity. They identified 7 sites in an area of 10 by 20 kilometers, as well as more than 850 artifacts, including early Paleolithic stone axes. There used to be a large lake here, which left behind a dried-up riverbed. Ancient people probably used this region for hunting and making tools. Scientists believe that further research will help us better understand how the landscape changed and which groups of people inhabited it in ancient times. Iraqi students who studied geoarchaeology and the Paleolithic period also took part in the project. Despite the unstable political situation, the work went off without incident. In the future, Ekbers plans to expand the research to reconstruct climate changes and early human activity in the region. The Sistine Chapel of ancient Egypt. Before you is one of the most stunning tombs of ancient Egypt, the burial place of Queen Nefertari, wife of Ramses Sekus. It is more than 3,200 years old, and it is often called the Sistine Chapel of Egypt because of its incredible paintings. Unlike many other tombs, this one impresses not only with its scale, but also with its bright, almost perfectly preserved colors. On the walls, there are scenes from the Book of the Dead, images of gods, and Nefertari herself walking into the afterlife. The Egyptians believed that such paintings would help the deceased pass the trials and achieve eternal life. The detailing is stunning. Fine lines, intricate patterns, vivid colors. All this makes the tomb a true masterpiece. Unfortunately, many sections of the walls have been damaged by time, but restorers have managed to preserve its grandeur. Today, this tomb is considered one of the most beautiful in the Valley of the Queens, and a true window into the world of ancient Egyptian art. Dog sacrifice. Archaeologists have found evidence of dog sacrifices near the Wolsong Palace, which was the royal residence of Silla in modern-day Gyeongju, South Korea. Silla was one of the 3 kingdoms of Korea, existing from 57 BC to 935 AD. The city of Seorabeol, now Gyeongju, was the capital, where a crescent-shaped fortress palace complex was built. Previously, human and animal remains were found at the main entrance of the palace, which were likely used in rituals. A recent expedition found a circular structure on the edge of the ancient settlement southwest of the palace. Inside, archaeologists found the bones of 2 dogs arranged symmetrically, as well as a knife, a wooden comb, shark teeth, and a crystal necklace placed in a wooden box. Analysis of the artifacts showed that the find dates back to the 3rd century BC. Traces of fire around the site suggest that the place may have been burned after a ritual. At that time, the region belonged to the Jinhan Confederacy, which preceded the Silla Kingdom. A frozen Scythian boot. This boot is a genuine artifact from the past, over 2,300 years old. It was discovered in a burial mound in the Altai Mountains, where permafrost preserved it perfectly. This is Scythian footwear, made of leather and decorated with intricate patterns, and the sole is covered with bright beads. Such decoration indicates the high status of the owner. Most likely this was part of the attire of a noble Scythian, or even a noble Scythian woman. The Scythians were famous not only for their martial skills, but also for their ability to make things that could pass for works of art. Their clothing was not only practical, but also incredibly beautiful. Interestingly, the sole of the boot is also decorated. Perhaps it was a ritual element or simply a desire to look stylish even after death. The mysterious house on the ancient tapestry. The Bayeux Tapestry is one of the most famous medieval works of art, illustrating the Norman conquest of England in 1066. However, it still remains a historical mystery. New research has helped uncover yet another secret linked to this unique artifact. The tapestry, 68.3 meters long, depicts key events leading up to the Battle of Hastings, including the killing of the last Anglo-Saxon king Harold II by the army of Duke William. Archaeologists have confirmed that one of the places shown on the tapestry actually existed, the residence of Harold in Bosham, England. Using modern technology, researchers studied the structures beneath a 17th century building which was presumably built on the site of the palace. Radar scanning and analysis of old excavations made it possible to identify the remains of two medieval buildings and an important find, a toilet, which indicates the status of an elite residence. Harold owned several estates, but Boscombe was probably his favorite. The palace had moats, granaries, storage rooms, kitchens, and even quarters for servants. This discovery helps to reconstruct a picture of life among the Anglo-Saxon nobility and confirms that the Bayeux Tapestry is not just a work of art, but a valuable historical source. Why is a bottle of wine 750 milliliters? Why is the volume of a wine bottle 750 ml and not 1 liter? There are many theories surrounding this question. Some people believe that this volume is convenient for a European family at lunch, while others associate it with optimal wine storage. Some claim that this is a historically established standard for glassblowers, while others are sure that 750 ml is simply a convenient volume for transportation. But the real reason lies in the trade calculations of the 19th century. At that time, wine was actively exported from France to England, where the gallon system was used. 1 gallon was equal to about 4.5 liters, and a standard French wine barrel held 225 liters. When divided into 750 ml bottles, it came out to exactly 300 bottles. To simplify trade, it was decided to count batches in this volume. 1 gallon equals 6 bottles, and a case held 12. This standard has remained to this day. Besides wine, alcohol also played an important role in earlier times. For example, the Sumerians used weak beer of about 2.5% strength to disinfect water, and the first traces of wine were found in Georgia and Armenia, making them the ancestral homelands of winemaking. Interestingly, in the 1970s, the United States planned to switch to liter bottles, but studies showed that 750 ml is the ideal volume for wine aging. As a result, this standard became global, retaining its significance even in countries with the metric system. The mummy of the Yakutian lion. In November 2024, Russian paleontologists completed the study of a unique find, the mummy of a Homotherium cub that had lain in the Yakutian permafrost for about 35,000 years. This is one of the rarest specimens of ancient predators that dominated vast territories from North America to Africa for millions of years. Homotheriums were powerful predators that competed with lions, saber-toothed tigers, and even hyenas. They hunted in packs, and their fangs, although shorter than those of smilodons, were thicker and stronger, allowing them to pierce the hides of large animals, such as young mammoths. Unlike the solitary ambush-hunting smilodons, Homotheriums preferred to hunt by chasing their prey, like wolves. Their powerful paws and well-developed chest made them enduring pursuers. Discoveries from Yakutia allowed scientists to study the appearance of a cub in detail. At just 3 weeks old, it already had a massive neck, a broad muzzle, and paws that resembled skis, perfect for moving through the snow. A comparison with a modern lion cub showed that Homotherium was more stocky and muscular. Despite their adaptations, Homotherium became extinct about 10,000 years ago. Their specialized hunting strategy proved ineffective as glaciers melted and they faced competition from prehistoric humans. The mysterious drink in the jug. In China, the oldest distilled alcohol, over 3,000 years old, has been found. This rare liquid, discovered in a bronze vessel from the Shang dynasty, proves that distillation technology appeared in China much earlier than previously thought. The owl-shaped vessel was found in 2010 in Tomb M257 in Doxingzhuang, Shandong province. Due to corrosion, it could not be opened immediately. Only in 2024, after careful restoration, were researchers able to look inside. To their surprise, the vessel contained a clear liquid that was preserved thanks to the tight sealing. Analysis at the laboratory of Shandong University confirmed that it was distilled liquor. It did not contain sugars or organic acids typical of fermented wine, but had a neutral pH of 5.8. This distinguishes it from previously known alcoholic beverages of the Neolithic era and the Zhou dynasty. The African continent is splitting. African scientists have found that Africa will split into two continents much faster than previously thought. In 2005, a 56.5-kilometer-long crack appeared in the Ethiopian desert, which continues to expand at a rate of 1.5 centimeters per year. This is part of a large-scale process associated with the East African Rift Valley, a giant fault stretching 3,200 kilometers that formed 22 million years ago. It was previously believed that Africa would split apart in tens of millions of years, but Professor Ken McDonald of the University of California predicts that this will happen in just 1.5 million years. As a result, the Indian Ocean will flood East Africa, forming a new continent that will include Somalia, Kenya, Tanzania, and half of Ethiopia. The Great Lakes of Africa, which contain 25% of the Earth's fresh water, were formed precisely because of the tectonic rift. According to former NASA consultant Alexander Doughton, these processes are ongoing, and over time, East Africa will completely separate, forming a new ocean. Modern satellite data and seismic scanning confirm that volcanic activity in the region is increasing. In 2018, heavy rains led to the formation of new cracks in Kenya, and local residents felt underground tremors. Experts also believe that Madagascar will eventually split into two islands. Although these changes are not noticeable on the scale of a human lifetime, earthquakes and volcanic eruptions will become more frequent, marking the birth of a new continent. The mysterious grave, 157. During excavations in the eastern part of Croatia, in the settlement of Rača, archaeologists discovered a mysterious medieval burial, which was named Grave 157. It attracted attention because of its unusual location and terrifying ritual features. The tomb was located under the floor of an ancient church along the southern wall, and massive stones were placed on the remains of the deceased, which, according to researchers, might have been put there specifically to prevent his possible resurrection. This fact, as well as the unusual position of the body, led to the assumption that the burial was connected to a belief in vampires. Anthropological analysis showed that the remains belonged to a man aged 40 to 50 who performed hard physical labor during his lifetime. However, the most mysterious thing is the deliberate damage to the skeleton. His torso was facing down, and his head was separated from his body. Such unusual burial practices have previously been found in Europe, and are often associated with the fear of the dead who might come back to life. The historical context also adds special significance to the discovery. The settlement of Rača existed from the 13th to the 16th century and initially belonged to the Templars, then to the Order of Hospitallers, and later passed into the hands of the local nobility. Over 15 years, archaeologists have discovered 181 burials here. In some graves, traces of unusual burial rituals were found, including decapitated bodies and dislocated bones. This indicates ancient superstitions and fears. Analysis of historical sources confirms that even after the adoption of Christianity in Slavic countries, belief in evil spirits continued to persist. An ancient cemetery of trade caravans. Archaeologists have made an important discovery in the Negev highlands, an ancient burial site, 2,500 years old, which sheds light on the trade routes of the ancient world. The artifacts found confirm that this region was an important hub connecting South Arabia, Phoenicia, Egypt, and the Mediterranean. The excavations revealed the tombs of merchants who crossed the desert, among them traders who transported frankincense, myrrh, and valuable goods. Among the finds are arrowheads from Yemen, jewelry, rare shells, and tools for processing frankincense. Especially interesting is an amulet of the Egyptian god Bes, the protector of women and children. Its presence may indicate human trafficking in ancient times, which is confirmed by historical records about the Menians, merchants from Yemen, who acquired women in Egypt, Gaza, and Greece. The burial site is located at a strategic crossroads of ancient routes leading through the desert. New mysteries of Egyptian burial practices. For the first time, scientists have conducted a detailed analysis of the pink and white paste used to seal coffins in ancient Egypt. The study showed that these substances had different compositions and served different purposes. One of the first samples studied was the coffin of Pakepu, a priest and guardian of burials in Thebes who lived about 2,700 years ago. His wooden coffin, kept at the Fitzwilliam Museum of the University of Cambridge, consisted of two parts, an inner and an intermediate coffin, sealed with special compounds. Analysis showed that the pink paste was used to fill structural gaps, while the white one served as a base for painting. Interestingly, a layer similar to papier-mâché was found in the inner coffin, a multi-layer composition of linen and gypsum, similar to those used for funerary masks and mummy casings. The main component of both pastes was calcite, obtained by grinding limestone. However, a purer material was used in the inner coffin, which confirms the special attention given to the structure that was in direct contact with the body. The pink paste, containing iron impurities, was coarser and served technical purposes. Its grainy structure helped prevent shrinkage during drying. The internal joints indicate that different craftsmen worked on the coffin, each applying their own method. During the study of an ancient burial complex in southwestern Spain, archaeologists discovered the remains of women buried in ritual clothing adorned with thousands of beads. According to scientists, this unusual attire indicated the high status of its owners and was used in special ceremonies. The burial, which is about 5,000 years old, is located in Valencina de la Concepción, an archaeological site near Seville. The excavations revealed the largest collection of beads ever found in a single burial. In total, researchers studied more than 270,000 beads made from seashells, stone, and bones. One burial in particular stands out, the burial of the Ivory Lady. Her jewelry was likely connected to marine resources and the trade routes of the Copper Age. According to the researchers, the mother-of-pearl beads shone in the sunlight, enhancing the visual effect of the outfit. Scientists believe that the beads were part of tunics, skirts, or capes strung onto fabric, traces of which have been preserved. The researcher notes that making such a quantity of beads would have required a team of 10 people working for at least 7 months. The scale of the work is impressive and points to the complex craft traditions of that time. The oldest 3D map in the world. Archaeologists have discovered the world's oldest 3D map, which is 13,000 years old. It was carved on quartz sandstone in the Ségognol 3 cave shelter in France, and according to researchers, represents a schematic depiction of the landscape of the Paris Basin. According to the analysis, the map shows the terrain with indications of water flow directions, which was critically important for people of the late Paleolithic. According to anthropologist Anthony Mills, for ancient people, knowledge of water flows was more important than modern concepts of distance and time. An important discovery was that Paleolithic people not only recorded the landscape, but also deliberately altered it, creating artificial channels in the sandstone to manage the flow of rainwater. The creators of the map deliberately opened cracks in the stone to direct water through the settlement. This proves that as early as 13,000 years ago, people had an engineering mindset and deep knowledge of hydrology. Archaeologists also suggest that the carved channels may have had mythological or ritual significance related to water and the concept of nature and life. Ghosts in Jamaica. Sometimes, for a place to become truly legendary, all it takes is a bit of truth and a generous portion of myths. That's exactly how the story of Rose Hall Mansion, one of Jamaica's most famous landmarks, came to be. This magnificent house, perched on a hill overlooking the sea, hides dark secrets from the past. The mansion was built by the planter John Palmer, who named it after his wife Rosa. During the plantation era, Jamaica was a place of brutal exploitation of slaves, and the fate of many of them was tied to this house. But the real legend began when Rose Hall came into the hands of John Rose Palmer and his young wife Annie. According to legend, she grew up in Haiti, where she was raised by a voodoo priestess. It is believed that Annie used black magic to control the slaves and get rid of her husbands. They say she killed 3 husbands and executed disobedient slaves by locking them in the mansion's dungeons. According to legend, she was killed by her own slaves, and her body was bricked up under the house. Since then, the ghost of the White Witch is said to wander the mansion. Today, Rose Hall is an 18th century museum where they hold seances and tours. This atmospheric spot attracts both fans of the supernatural and history enthusiasts. I'm glad you watched this video to the end, and I would appreciate it if you leave a kind comment under the video. It helps the channel grow. Thank you for watching. Goodbye, everyone.